bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. How you doing? How you doing? Today's Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. 76 days into the new year. Only 289 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south. Far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Happy St. Patty's Day, everybody. St. Patrick's Day. That's right. You know, throughout social media today, I was looking at all of the pictures of everybody hoisting up Guinness Extra Stout. That's my beer of choice. That's not reserved for St. Patrick's Day. You know, posers. You need to, when you walk into a lounge, that's what you order every time you sit down. Somebody, you know, and I ask anybody that's been around me. I ask the waiter, the waitress, same thing. What's the darkest thing you've got? I want the list. I want the list of the darkest. Well, you know, we got a Blue Moon. That's not dark. We got Anchor Steam. No, dark beer. I like my beer dark. You know, and once in a while, so, but that's it. That's a real beer drinker. Blue Moon. Get your little slice of orange, please. Man, I like my beer to be dinner. That's how I take my beer. All right. I've talked about this in the past. I've found some really cool uber dark beers, you know, with chocolate and coffee, and those are good. Those are good. What was that? Smog City. Oof, man. Stop by the church house. That's what was on tap. Smog City. But anyway, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, and I hope you celebrated it right. You know, here in LA, I'm sure they do this all over the country. They'll have, you know, somebody live on the radio show up at some bar at 8 o'clock in the morning, St. Patrick's Day. Celebrate. How do you get up at 8, especially, you know, and go to a bar before work, right, and drink up? But I guess it's okay. I guess it's okay if it's St. Patrick's Day. All right, where am I at? I announced this earlier this week. I will be at the UFO MegaCon June 6th through the 12th in Laughlin, Nevada. You can go to the links that we've got posted throughout social media, Laughlin, UFOMegaConference.com. We've got the links up, and I want everybody to go and click and get your tickets because this is live, in-person, real human beings conference. That's right. A real conference happening in June of 2021. Now, because of the regulations right now, there is a strict 250-person attendance limit right now. Okay? And that's it. And so, fade or not, I don't want you to miss out on this. Go and get your tickets, and then you'll be able to show up and wear your Fade to Black t-shirt. We'll have shirts there. Your Fade to Black hat. It's going to be cool to see the Aquarius Hotel and Casino full of Fadernauts. It's going to be great. All right, 7-day event. Hotels are cheap. This is going to be a good one. I cannot wait to see all of you out there. We got everything planned, and there's going to be some sky watching, and I think Friday night I'll be out there. I'm going to be out there. I think they're doing 4 nights of sky watches, and Friday night I will be out there for sure. So there you go. Okay. All right. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. Hello to everybody out there right now. YouTube, Facebook, the Bunker Cam. Right? Right? You know what's going on. Spreaker, if you want to get into the chat, you can jump over there. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox, which is, that's pretty good. That is Third Stone Studios coming in strong with American Gods. I think there's just one episode left. We just watched episode 9. And by the way, and if you haven't checked out American Gods, watch it. Adult. It's adult. I'm just warning you now. The kids are not allowed in the room when American Gods is on. And it's the same thing with Rick and Morty. Man, I'm telling you, Rick and Morty. I'm telling you that's where it's at. And I warned everybody last night, Rick and Morty, don't, because it's a cartoon, I'm telling you, don't ignore it. Go and get into Rick and Morty. It's the best thing ever on television. Wow, it's incredible. Incredible. Okay, all right. All right. It's not a joke. I'm not joking about Rick and Morty. And it's just the title of the show kept me away from it. Some kiddie show, like Dexter's Laboratory. No, it ain't that kind of party. Oh, no. No. Rick and Morty. All right. Let's get to the breaking news. Man, this is starting to heat up. This is starting to turn into something. Because after going dark on Monday and Tuesday, I mentioned this yesterday, The Talk on CBS is extending its brief hiatus from live shows until next week, next Tuesday, March 23rd. What is going on over there? The network says it's continuing to review what happened on March 10th, the heated debate between Sharon Osbourne and Cheryl Underwood, initially planning to return to live episodes today. Well, that didn't happen. The show will stay dark as Osbourne's defense of Piers Morgan and comments on racism, particularly her confrontation with Underwood, her black colleague, go under the microscope internally. Now, Sharon's response, she said, hey, I might not come back. So it looks like both her and Piers have quit their shows inside of 2 weeks. Crazy. I mean, wow, the drama. Speaking of all this TV drama going down right now in Hollywood, I live here. It's the chat. It's what people talk about, right? I checked out yesterday's cable rankings on TV. And I was doing some stuff today, and there's a couple of special websites that you can go to and get the specific numbers of a specific day. And I just thought, I wonder what went on in cable. Yes, who was right? So yesterday, cable TV rankings. Number 1, The Rachel Maddow Show led prime time in total viewers with 3.18 million. That surprised the crap out of me. Number 2, beating out Tucker Carlson Tonight. And he was far behind with 3.02 million. Okay? History Channel's The Curse of Oak Island came in number 3 with 2.95 million. Right on the heels of Tucker. That's right. Tucker was this close to losing out to a very questionable conspiracy treasure hunt show. Oh, man. Seriously. That's the world we live in today, man. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today, the one and only Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell today is 70. I'm going to ask, come on, Fade or Not's Twitter. Favorite Kurt Russell movie? Favorite. And I know everybody's going to go, Escape from New York. Fair. That's a fair crack. I get that. I'm going with Death Proof. Death Proof. Kurt Russell. What was the other one? He played Captain Ron, the sailboat. Oh, was that called Captain Ron? That's a pretty good movie, too. Was that called Captain Ron? Oh, man. I'm getting old. I can't even remember. Rob Lowe today is 57. Elon's GFF Grimes today is 33. John Sebastian today is 77. Welcome back, right? Theme song to Welcome Back, Cotter. Remember that? You like that song. Thin Lizzy's Scott Gorham today is 70. He's not from Ireland. Nah. He's born right here in Glendale, California. Paul Mars Black today, Hollywood legend. Today is 61. I've known Paul since we were kids. Of course, he was the founding member of LA Guns with Tracy Guns. Billy Corgan today is 54 years old. Our dead guy's birthday today is, moment of silence, please, Nat King Cole. 1919 to 1965, died at the age of 45. Although many regard Nat as one of the greatest singers in history, all right, he may have been a better pianist. That's right. He could play the piano, which makes him one of the greatest piano players in the history of the world. He recorded over 100 songs that became hits on the pop charts, and his trio was the model for small jazz ensembles that followed. That's a fact. On Valentine's Day, Cole and his wife briefly left St. John's Medical Center in Santa Monica, California, to drive by the sea. He died at the hospital the next day on February 15th, 1965, of lung cancer. Nat was just 45 years old. Happy birthday, Nat King Cole. On this day in history, 461 AD, St. Patrick, Christian missionary, bishop, and apostle of Ireland, dies at Sow, Downpatrick, Ireland. Fader fact. All right, now, here you go, and research this. Look it up. This is crazy town. The largest man-made structure in history was the Walls of Benin in present-day Nigeria. They were 4 times longer than the Great Wall of China and contained 100 times more material than the Great Pyramid. Then the British showed up in 1897, destroyed it all, leveled it, destroyed one of Africa's greatest man-made structures. With the fall of Benin's Wall, thousands of years of Africa's historical evidence were erased. What remains of the wall itself today continues to be torn down for real estate development. And that is your Fader fact. Tonight, very, very special show with a very special guest. Attorney James Lough is here. We're going to be talking about the UAPTF report to the Senate Intelligence Committee. And tomorrow, it's another Fader night with open lines all night long. Now, it's time for me to hit this River Moon coffee. Yeah. RivermoonWellness.com. Fade to black blend. Like my coffee, Doc. Like I like my beer, Doc. Man, that's good coffee. Whoo! Once in a while, I mean, it's always a good pot. It's always good. It's always good. Always great. But once in a while, the sun, the moon, the stars, everything aligns, and it's just the right. And that right there is correct. River Moon Coffee. Man, best coffee in the world. The websites, the links, Amazon, everything that you need is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Click and get yourself the best coffee in the world. It is truly the best coffee in the world. All right. Okay. Now, I have the feeling that something is about to break. Yeah, I do. But I'm not so sure it's going to necessarily be directly about UFOs or disclosure. It may be. But I'm picking up signals in the conversations that I've been having over the last month. That's right. Emails, conversations, texts. And the chatter is starting to overlap. Now, look, it's very simple. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. But I talk to everybody. And it's very strange. I brought up a point last night about John Mack with Stephen Bassett. And the point that I brought up is something that I have practiced myself. And I do it all the time. I do it. Where I don't reveal stuff. What I do is listen. And all of you can benefit from this practice. Okay? Initiate, but let somebody else do the talking. Initiate, right? Let somebody else talk. Listen. And the more that you do that, you pick up on things, little things inside, and then suddenly you connect it. And I brought that up last night with Stephen Bassett about John Mack. I think that John Mack was going through a couple of research components, people, sessions. And he's taking his notes, copious stuff. He's probably recording. And then something was said, and then somebody else, and it just something, it doesn't matter. Somebody said, just make something, it doesn't matter. Bottled water, alkaline, bottled, whatever. I'm saying that because this is staring at me in the face. Right here, alkaline, pH 9.5. And maybe that was it, right? pH 9.5. And then a month later, somebody says, pH 9.5. What? Okay. And that's what you do. You don't say it. you wait for somebody else and then somebody else to repeat, and then, right, and you start to figure this stuff out. That's what you do. And I'm starting to pick up on this right now. Started about a month ago. And weird little things. Now, and this is what I find fascinating, and I'm just going to be straight with everybody that is listening. Everyone. Is this. Most, if not all, but most researchers in the UFO community don't share their stuff. Nope. They don't. They don't share. And they don't partner up. Now, there's exceptions, right? Carrie and Schmidt, great example, right? Stanton and Kathleen Martin, great partnership right there. It happens. But by and large, nobody shares. Okay? So I know that when I am having a conversation with somebody, and I know who this person is. I know for a fact, I'm not hypothesizing. No, I am stating as fact that whoever I am speaking to has not had this conversation with another UFO researcher. Guaranteed. But I have another conversation with somebody, and we're going through our things, and then something is blurted out. Blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute. I know that this person hasn't talked to this person. That's a fact. How did that just happen? Well, it has continued and continued up to this very day. Now, I'm not necessarily at this point honed in on specifics. I think I am getting close. Rita, but I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do any kind of reveal or project. I'm not going to do that. Not yet, at least. But it has gotten to the point where Rita said to me today something, and she blurted this out, sitting outside, drinking coffee, and I literally turned to her and went, ding, 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 we have a winner. That's what's going on. So, and she deduced this from the same chatter, the same thing, you know, there's something about to happen. And I think it's going to be big. Now, I'm not talking about, folks, listen. I'm talking about something in the sky. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the president on live TV. I'm not talking about that. It's going to be part of the community, but it's going to be something else, and it's going to be big. Right? Not necessarily a good thing. And what's weird is that in the end, it's going to be good. But I'm telling you, all signals, man, all signals. I'm a little nervous. I remember there have been a few times in the last 20 years, and certainly in the last 10, where the chatter got heated, things of that, and then the next thing you know, boom, right? Okay. And you can feel it, and you can see it. You know, there's too many researchers out there, good ones, that have connections, that are out there pushing, they're out there talking, they're out there thinking, and eventually, as you get past the wall of the frontline stuff, this stuff, you know, it's crisscrossing in the background. You know, it's just there, and it just filters up. It's filtering up, and it finds its way to the surface. And these little things were not necessarily when somebody's in the middle of a conversation that they're even aware of it too. They're not. It's just these little nuggets. And when you get the little nugget and you hear it over and over and over again, you have to stop and go, there's something going on. There's something going on. I can't, I think that maybe mid next week, as things start to, how do I say this? As things start to clarify, I may throw some ideas out there for everybody. And I know what you're thinking right now. Jimmy is just going on and on and on. And what's he, get to the point. I can't quite. But it's bubbling. It's interesting. I'm telling you right now. It started about a month ago, and it was like 2 or 3 conversations I had in a day, and it was just like, and I just remember stepping back and going, all right, I've been through this before. Okay, all right, I'll let the weirdness pass, and then it was the next day, somebody else, it's just a normal conversation, but then a little key. What? Huh? I'm telling you, there's going to be some vindication too as well. There's going to be a lot of ha. Yep. And it's not going to be what you think either. That's the other thing. And it was just so funny. Rita's comment to me today where she just nailed it, right? And I don't want to get into the specifics, but she said what I was thinking. It was bizarre. So I know I'm not wrong. I know I'm not. All right. So with that, we've got an amazing show coming up. Amazing conversation. Attorney James Lough is with us. He sent me an advanced section, the executive summary of his new book. Now, we're going to be talking about this tonight. This is to prep Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., and journalists on the upcoming UAPTF report that is going to be presented to the Senate Intelligence Committee. All right. Now, this is something that not only did I enjoy reading, but this is exactly what I like to read. And it's incredibly well done. It's well done. We're going to be discussing all of that tonight and much more. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. You guys ready? It's going to be a wild ride. I'm telling you. This month is going to be nuts. I'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder. but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward. This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey. You're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, attorney James Lough is with us. Tomorrow night is Fader Night. Open lines all night long. My favorite night of the week, besides tonight, with attorney James Lough. We're going to discuss all sides of the upcoming UAPTF report that will be presented to the Senate Intelligence Committee and his new book, UFO Briefing Book, a guide to congressional oversight of the UAP phenomenon. It's going to be distributed to the media and Capitol Hill. We'll discuss all of that tonight and his approach to this. And I want to lay this out to everybody as methodically as I can to all of the Fadernauts. James is a retired attorney who specialized in government law, including constitutional law, election law, and appellate practice. He also taught decision-making in urban communities at the San Diego State University School of Public Affairs. His interest in UFOs comes from having witnessed several at close range over his lifetime. And I would like to welcome for the first time to Fade to Black, Jim Lough. Jim, good evening, my man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
That's it? That's all you got for us?
That's it. James Patrick Lough. Lough is the anglicized version of lake in Gaelic.
Oh, so you've been drinking all day?
No, I have foregone my heritage to make sure I don't stumble too much tonight.
All right, fair enough, Jim, fair enough. Well, this is the deal. Right now, you get the first-time guest disclaimer. Okay, so let's get that out of the way, which is this, Jim. It's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. All right? Does the attorney initial the disclaimer?
Yes.
Initialed, stamped, certified. Okay. So, I wanted to do. I knew what my first question was going to be tonight, and I don't think about this often, but certainly with you, it applies. How do you go from constitutional law and an attorney to writing the Senate a book on UFOs? That's a crazy. Couldn't you have just bought a Corvette and done the the midlife crisis thing? Would that have been easier? What's going on?
Yeah, it would have been a lot easier actually. But in 2014, I joined Yvonne's Smith's group, Cero, and took out of what Al Gore used to call his lockbox. I took out my experiences practicing law for 40 years. I mostly represented elected officials. And so, I had experiences over my life, but you can't talk about it or you can't do anything. It would affect my career, but more importantly, it would affect my clients. If you're standing up in court in an election case representing a city or an initiative group or whatever, and they bring up, if they don't have the facts of the law on their side, they argue about you and your credibility. And so, unfortunately, the world is the way it is now. Is you can't bring out these experiences and stand up in front of a federal judge and expect fair treatment. And so, my elected clients, they didn't run to work with a city attorney or special counsel that's a UFO person. And so I pretty much kept these things to myself with a small group of friends. And late in my career, I started going to experiencer sessions with Yvonne and her group. And the more I did, the more I realized I felt at home with that group, frankly, more than a lot of my lawyer friends.
Yeah, you don't want to be standing in court and somebody just blurts out, yeah, but judge, great argument. But he's the UFO guy. Right? And that's, and that's all they've got to say. And suddenly the focus is on that and not what is being presented in court. So, yeah, I'm gonna stay in front of you for just a second. There's another part to this in reading your executive summary of the book. Now, you sent me 26 pages. And I am used to reading some pretty excellent stuff from some great researchers, right? And there's some really good stuff out there. You present this in such a compelling way. I'm thinking to myself, where's this guy been? The UFO community has needed this kind of representation for a very long time. Extremely well written and thought out and methodical, like an attorney, like a good attorney. And it's very difficult to argue with something that is presented like that. Good job. Okay. And that's why I want to start off on that footing.
Appreciate it. I pretty much spent my career writing government reports when I wasn't writing, briefs for litigation. Most of the type of cases I had, I didn't have long trials. I didn't do criminal cases. I did what are called writs of mandate, where a court tries to either mandate or not mandate a particular conduct by a governmental entity. And so writing is something I was a poor writer in college, and just through perseverance and doing it over and over again, I worked on it and honed my skills. And so I've spent a lot of time working on public issues, and this UFO issue should be public. It shouldn't be just for entertainment. It should be public policy, and we should be debating public policy about it.
Well, and again, with what is about to happen and has been ongoing for the last few months with Capitol Hill and specifically the Senate Intelligence Committee, we're getting into issues now that require their language. It needs to be approached that way so they can digest it. It's very important. I can't go up and speak in front of the Senate. I'm not going to. I wouldn't add value to it. It needs to be done in a way that they are used to review, and that is what is presented here. Was it purely from your government background and dealing with constitutional law that how to get this writ done so it does get read?
Like I said, I represented elected officials for close to 40 years. And so part of it helps me know how they think. I was fortunate to teach part-time at San Diego State in the School of Public Affairs, and the class I taught was pretty much geared towards seniors and graduate students, not figuring out how to, the theories of public administration, but how to write persuasively to help your city make the case that you're making. And so I've drafted a lot of initiatives over the years, and the purpose of having, public administration types like myself is you can put it in language. The goal is to put it in language that's simple enough for the public to understand, but also is aimed at explaining to the elected official, what are the policy options and which way to approach it. So I pretty much approached this as a typical public policy problem. I didn't approach it as a UFO problem. That just happened to be the subject of it. Over the years, I've represented, private people and governments on issues that I didn't know anything about before I started, but I wrote well enough to be able to put it in place. And so I did the same thing here. And thank goodness I've had enough background in the UFO field as far as reading. What I don't have is, and your audience is just perfect for this, I don't have sort of that gut feel of what their neighbor, when they talk to their neighbor about this, what rings true, what doesn't. And you have a very knowledgeable audience base when it comes to that. And so, as I told you in the email I sent you, this is perfect for me. This is like having a focus group. A focus group is a group of individuals that's put together that represent a community. And so advertisements, legislation, political campaigns are based on what focus groups tell you. And I can't think, when I first got asked by you to be on this, I'm well, what the hell do I do? And so I'm approaching it like that, is I'm really curious what your audience thinks about, disclosure and how we go about it. Now, and what sells to their neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. And as we talked last week, we were in person, everybody. Jim and I were eyeball to eyeball. one of the things that surprised me, and I want to discuss this approach, was I said, send me the book. And you said, well, I can, and I will, but this is going to be distributed first to Capitol Hill and journalists out there so they know how to handle what is about to go on. So let's start there. Why that approach first?
Well, what I want to do is, well, first of all, I started drafting this. I wasn't even going to have it published. I was just going to prepare a paper. But then I realized that if I went through some of the publishers, it's just as cheap as going to Kinko's and putting it together there. And then I realized other people might be interested in it. And so I put together, in sort of a government report style, it starts with an executive summary and it has a conclusion, and each chapter is sort of self-contained. And one of the reasons I didn't give it to you is it's not done. I mean, it's I just got the email about 4 hours ago that everything, all the corrections are done. So it's going to print tomorrow, and so my goal was to get it to the 4 committees, the Senate Intelligence, the House Permanent Select Intelligence Committee, the House and Senate Armed Services Committees. Those are the 4 committees that will get the report. Now, the report is due June 25th. I was planning on speeding this up and doing it in February, but after January 6th, I figured I better give myself a little space, so they're closer to focusing on it. So I want to put this in their hands, and for those that read it or have their staffers read it, it's something they can pick up. And elected officials get tons of reading. They can pick it up and look at one chapter that they're interested in and pretty much get a whole picture of that particular issue. Mm-hmm. And so, because usually what happens with elected officials, they read the executive summary, they read a few pages of the conclusion, and then they make a decision. And, if they read everything, they'd be reading 20,000 pages a week. And so they have to make decisions. And so I wrote it in a way that they will be able to see it. And also from their perspective, the premise of the book isn't that, non-terrestrial beings are here. It's that we don't know what it is. The Senate Intelligence Committee wants to know whether it's a threat or not, which is why it's in front of Intelligence and Armed Services. It's not, their subject matter isn't mysteries of the universe. And so I wrote it from that perspective, is that no matter, you need to ask these questions, no matter what the ultimate outcome is. And when you tell elected officials what the ultimate outcome is, they're going to rebel. They don't like that. They like finding things for themselves. They want to do research, find it for themselves. And so when you talk about this subject, they have very little information. If you're talking about COVID relief or defense expenditures, you've got think tanks out there, you've got special interest groups that constantly bombard them with information. Who's going to give them information on this? The defense community and the intelligence agency. There is no Heritage Foundation or Brookings Institution for UFOs. And so, you had on a good lobbyist yesterday, and I'm not a lobbyist, but I'm the type that does reports. And, I did them, wrote about them, taught about them. And so the goal was to give them something to have them prepared when they get this report.
And you also wanted to be, you just brought up the 20,000 page number, which I think is fairly typical when you see things in Congress, these ginormous bills, right? There's so much paperwork involved that this is about 120 pages. So it can get read, and there's no fluff. It just gets straight to the point. So somebody, one of the staffers, will read the complete book, right? And that's the goal.
That's the goal. I always like to, when I meet with an elected official, that like I'm representing another entity or a private group, the first thing I ask them once we decide that we're going to be, passing on information and things to them, I ask them, who should I send this to? Who's really going to read this? Not you. No offense. I know you tell everyone you do that, but I don't want their chief of staff. I want the person that's actually working on intelligence issues for the Intelligence Committee that will be handling this issue to read it, because that's who they rely upon.
Now, you were very direct with me in the very beginning with data and stats when it came to what the bill contained and how this request was made. And I've commented a lot on this show about that, and I've read through it, and I've read those sections, but when I started to discuss this with you, I realized out of the gate that this was in your wheelhouse. You knew exactly what was going on and how it was requested and dealt with. So aside from my statements in the past, how was this requested and presented in the budget and the bill that was finally, I guess it was signed off early January? Right.
Yeah, late December.
December, right.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. The way it was a tortured history, because June 8th, Marco Rubio, in a closed session, because most of Intelligence Committee meetings are behind closed doors because it's about intelligence. And he slipped in this thing in the committee comments, which isn't part of the bill language, that said when Senate Bill 395, whenever it gets approved, that triggers the 6 months. Well, then we had all the problems with COVID, and we had the problems with the budget didn't get approved. And so it all ended up in an omnibus bill that was 5 pages long. And if you're involved in this kind of stuff, you can speed read through most of the junk and get to the good stuff. It just takes a while for your PDF document to
scroll.
To get to it.
Yes.
Exactly. But so what happened was, whenever the COVID bill under the Trump administration was finally approved, they also included the omnibus budget bill for fiscal year 2021. And unfortunately, they used the House version of the intelligence bill, but they put a section in there that incorporated by reference the committee comments under both bills. And so that's how it got under the tent and into the process. In fact, it's a little stronger than just a general statement that we'd love to see this, because it is referenced in the bill, but the request for a report doesn't have the force of law. And that's when I saw that with the committee comments back in July, when I first stumbled across them at the beginning of July, I knew that somebody's going to have to do something quickly. And I was listening. So I started listening to these kinds of shows for a while. And I heard Richard Dolan talk about that. He was talking about the bill and talking about the issues. And he mentioned that we don't have anyone that has the public policy background in the UFO field. And so I was working on a book, finalizing a book on the Robertson panel and the civil rights implications of their watching, people who were interested in UFOs and the debunking that they did. And I was attacking that not from the UFO side, but from the civil rights side. So I was working on that. Mm-hmm. And then I just dropped that like a bad habit and just started writing this. And I had a core group of people that helped me out and sort of steered me in the right direction. Lucy, Laughing Eagle, Terry Lovelace, Yvonne Smith, Robert Salas, Robert Hastings, and Don Schmidt later weighed in and really were helpful. Just a few emails, but really pointed me in the right direction on a few things. And so, I just pretty much dropped everything. And, I don't play golf and I don't drive a sports car or whatever. And it was COVID. So what a great time to just sit and write. And so I spent 4 or 5 months putting this together and, but put it together, not from the typical perspective, like probably the template book is Dolan's After Disclosure. But I put it together knowing what I know about elected officials and how they would approach us, telling them, you're crazy, they're flying all around us, can't you see them? Instead, I gave them things like, okay, you've had 70 years of Congress being warned off this stuff, and you've never had an actual witness. Now we have all these military pilots, military officers, technical people in radar, that can tell you what that radar tape said that was taken by a guy in a suit that got back on a helicopter and flew off of the deck of the Nimitz. So they have actual witnesses. And so, just talking to Air Force people or Navy, higher brass is not going to help them. But if we can get, people in the seat of Congress, sitting in front of them, whether it's open or closed session, and giving them what they saw, that kind of testimony. Think about over the last few years, because Congress has so many, hearings that are now live, how some witnesses, the dramatic testimony, the Kavanaugh hearing, the dramatic testimony of the woman that accused Kavanaugh of harassment. You can't, I don't care how many documents you present, that kind of stuff resonates. They're people on that level. And so it really helps.
Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, attorney James Lough. We're talking about his new book that will be eventually published for everybody to have access to. And we will continue this conversation when we come back. The book is called UFO Briefing Book, A Guide to Congressional Oversight of the UAP Phenomenon. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Jim when we come back after this short break. Stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to forbiddenknowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, forbiddenknowledge.tv. Again, visit forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, attorney James Lough is with us. We're talking about his new book. It's going to be published. It's printing tomorrow. I'll keep everybody updated when the book will be available. But this is an important part of the conversation tonight. As I read through your executive summary, there was something that stuck out to me. There was a lot of things that stuck out, but one of them is this. If we go back, and most people don't realize that 2004, and you present this so well, even for me, it opened up my eyes. that 2004 is 30 years ago, or nearly 30 years ago. That's a very important point to bring up, because now we have to jump back into history and discuss this. And for some of the members on the Senate Intelligence Committee, they were probably still in high school in 2004 and didn't really realize or remember their history. But you present this because today some of the arguments presented about the Nimitz and later the Roosevelt is that it could be adversarial, it could be China, and it could be Russia technology invading our airspace. And that presents a lot of difficult issues out in front of us. And this is a position that I have also taken. I've taken every position, actually, here, Jim. But you back up and you start to briefly lay out history and what was going on with China at that time, going back to the late 70s to the present day, and including Russia, and what those countries were going through, and the possibility of them having the investment to jump in to break and write their own new laws of physics, right? And to bust into this technology and leapfrog up in front of us. And that would have been virtually impossible. Now, that's something that hasn't quite been not only presented or talked about in the UFO community, but this is something that the Senate Intelligence Committee needs to read.
The way you look at this is, and I spent most of my time in the book talking about the Nimitz instead of the Roosevelt, because it was 17 years ago. And if...
Oh, I said 30 years, 17 years. I was thinking about the revolution and the fall of the Soviet Union.
Yep. And, but, okay, what public testimony has been from former Navy personnel on this is that there were possibly 50 of these Tic Tacs, 40-foot wide Tic Tacs flying around. And so you not only, think of all the technology you'd have to, come up with just to manufacture one of those, let alone bring them into operation, because the way they were operating off the coast of San Diego is it had to be something that was already in. It wasn't a prototype. And so I keep using the Nimitz example. I have a personal experience with the Nimitz, but also the Nimitz means that if the report, as it was written, as the questions were written by Marco Rubio, I think with the help of probably Luis Elizondo would be my guess, and maybe Chris Mellon, that they ask questions. Normally with UFOs, we look at it, are they alien or are they not? If you start with the premise that it's a possible threat to the military, it's, we have a chance. If the Russians or the Chinese actually had this, we'd be speaking Russian or Chinese right now, because they would just take over. And so I wanted to go back, and I always have a caveat in the book that, I may be wrong because of classified information I'm not aware of. But when you look at, take China, for example, 1978, they emerged from their isolation and started their capitalist bent. And so pretty much they were an inwardly looking consumer society until within the last 10 or 15 years. So by 2004, they're going to have 50 Tic Tacs. When they just built their first aircraft carrier a couple of years ago, come on. And then look at Russia. After the fall of the Soviet Union, that the time period you were talking about, we had to go in and help the Russians secure their own weapons. Now, does that mean the reason they did that is because there's this massive reverse engineering of UFOs going on and they could manufacture them? I don't think so. But they have to look at that because even though it's a very remote possibility, the committees are there to look at threats. And so let's call the military and the intelligence community, call their bluff. Show us what the threat is. No vague, there's something out there and we need to defend against it. Tell us, not us, but the senators and the congressmen, tell them what it is, because you're asking them for our money to do this. And so you've got to deal, we always skip ahead to the UFO issue, the non-terrestrial issue. But we actually have to start with where the military is. They're worried about threats. That, investigate that. You're here to protect us. We elect you to protect us. Investigate that. If it turns out it's not the case, go on to the next issue. In fact, I also talk about what if everyone's misinformed? Maybe we're all delusional, including the Navy pilots. Look down that road. Carl Jung, in his book, UFOs, A Modern Myth, said that, he said that Donald Kehoe was, had the right attitude about whether they're real or not, but he thought it would be better for me if they weren't, because it would prove that there's a collective consciousness, because everyone's having this all over.
It's one of the most eye-opening pages in that book that you're referencing right there. I read that over and over again. Very strong. Who knew Jung was writing about UFOs too? That was the other thing. Now, but we need to get a grasp on. I'm not so sure what these 3 videos show. I don't know if it's Alien and ET, or if it's us, or if it's Russia and China. I don't know. There's not enough information in those videos. We have the support of the pilots and the crew and the radar, but we have all of that, the supporting testimony that helps us get through what these 3 videos may or may not show. Without that testimony, the videos are just videos and they show nothing at all.
Exactly.
Right. Now, for you to take this a step further with this lens, suggesting that there is no way that in 2004 there could have been programs like this inside of China. No matter what we think of China and Russia today, we need to back things up and see what the status was of their economy and what was going on in those countries at that time to develop anything like this that could then be seen in 2004. That's a very compelling argument.
Well, if you break it down, you going through the questions that were asked by Marco Rubio and whoever helped him, because they never do these things alone. They always have help. They're pretty good questions. It's not the end questions. It's the beginning questions. And one of my fascinations with this whole thing is think back to 2020, between January and July or June when this came out, and through August. In January, at the end of January, a bunch of UFO researchers like John Greenwald and others received letters telling them they're not giving them the videos, because all we have are these fuzzy versions of them. They're not giving them. And one of the letters, it wasn't to John Greenwald, but one of the letters said that if they gave them, it would be a grave danger to national security. Now that's pretty heavy duty. Yet 2 months later, they released them and declassified them. 3 months later, they told us about the UAP task force. 5 months later, Marco Rubio pushed this. In August of that year, they took probably the most talented person in the civilian side of the Defense Department under Trump, David Norquist, and put him in charge of this. And so historians 100 years from now are going to be looking at that 6-month period. What the hell changed? There was a 75-year history of them being able to put the genie back in the bottle. And all of a sudden, it all fell apart on them. And that gave us the opening that we have. And so we need to run with this opening.
Now, Monsanto has got their lobbyists, right? The pharmaceutical wing, right? The petroleum, huge funding lobbyist. It's the job everybody wants in Washington, D.C. Huge amounts of money is spent on this. But you bring up the best point. The UFO community and anybody that is interested in this subject, we don't have that kind of representation. This is all completely one-sided. What can Congress do to take control of all of this and hopefully get other information coming to them? Do we have to get a lobbying effort from the UFO community to push and to get to the staffers and gain some influence?
Well, we need a grassroots level issue. A very good friend of mine for years was Senator Boxer's state director. And it's amazing. A state of, at the time, was 33 million. And if they got 100 letters, oh my God, that was a big deal. And so it doesn't take much. We don't have the money for lobbyists. We don't have a national organization that has the wherewithal to do this, like Monsanto and the American Chemical Association. So letter writing is probably, and I'm real curious of what your audience thinks about this. But I would think we need a letter writing campaign where everyone writes to their local congressman. I've started working on some form letters, and they're pretty, Steve Bassett probably is pretty good at that too. I'm not a lobbyist. But we need to do something. We don't have money, and we need an organization or some sort of effort to have the grassroots tell people, because what's going to happen is they're going to look at the next election, 2022, and is this going to help me or hurt me? And if we don't have, everyone's sitting back with their arms folded. I'm sitting here with my arms folded. I don't mean to, telegraph that, but if everyone sits back and hopes they do the right thing, nothing's going to happen. We're just going to be back in the same spot. We're going to be Charlie Brown with the football pulled away from us again by Lucy. And so, starting that process, I think, is going to be very important. Probably the most effective time will be after the report comes out.
Now, is Congress in control? I mean, do they have the power over the Pentagon and the military that they need to have? That's one of my other concerns. It seems that right now they're getting caught by surprise with all of this. Like they don't know what's going on because they don't have that authority, do they?
Well, they have oversight authority, and they have budgetary control. And so one thing about the positive about this report is it's supposed to tell, who's in charge of this, because you don't know where to send a subpoena if you don't know who's in charge.
Right.
And so, I think the questions will start what is called an iterative process, where one side does something, then the other side moves the ball forward. And so a phrase I use as often as any is small steps. And it's very frustrating, but that's what we're going to have to take, because you have to look at the congressmen or the senators. They don't know. Most of them don't know anything about this. there may be a few that have, or, experiencer, and they're just, that's buried in their past and they're never going to talk about it because they'll never get elected. So there may be some, but a lot of them are starting from square one. And so if you start with the oversight, think about this. The common statement is, okay, disclosure is going to happen because the president's going to hold a press conference and tell everyone. Well, if the president does that, no matter which party, because this is bipartisan, both wanting to know more and wanting to hide. It's been back to Truman, or maybe and Roosevelt too. So what you need to do is a president, if they say we're going to disclose, non-terrestrial craft are visiting us. Well, if they just do it on their own, the other side, whether it's Republican or Democrat, are just going to tear them apart because now they own whatever goes wrong because of this.
Yes.
And so you need to have bipartisan support on this. And so that's one of the reasons I'm writing to everybody, Devin Nunes and, I can't think, not Schmidt, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff. Yeah, you're going to have, they may not be speaking to each other, but on this issue, they're going to have, if we don't get some bipartisan support, neither side's going to jump. They have to jump off together. And so you're suggesting also then with the oversight, the power of the pen, the power of budgets, the power of who gets what money. And so that's an incentive for the defense and intelligence community, because right now, you have to remember, we got a really bad budget deficit. And so cuts are going to have to be made. And so, pet programs could disappear. And so Congress, we have a president right now that is really a senator who's become president. I mean, the Senate is his home. He's lived there his adult life. And so, that talking with, and he's good with senators on both sides. And so that's the Senate won't disclose, that we've got non-terrestrial visitors, but they can push on this. So we can have the defense and intelligence community actually let them know what's going on. And the more, and that's a, what's the Weezer? That's the sweater. You pull the sweater and it's going to keep coming apart. Right. And so, with them pushing from one side, it's really hard to put this back in a bottle, but because they've already said these 3 videos are valid. So the question is whether or not we can push beyond that. So at least it's a good start, but we've got to go much farther than that. And so having the Senate and House Intelligence and Armed Services Committee on our side will push the military and intelligence community, which thereby, the budget comes from the White House, from the Office of Management and Budget. And so, we have to, there's going to have to be some dynamics behind the scenes. Now, there's another part to this that I think that that they're going to get surprised, and I'm talking about the Senate Intelligence Committee and both houses very quickly here when they start to hear about some of these incidents that have gone on, have been completely covered up, just like any other scandal, right, that starts to break, where they're going to find out that the military branches have been going in with every incident that has gone on, grabbing the radar data, grabbing the computer data, grabbing the video, anything else that's digital, pull that out, take it out, tell everybody to shut up. Your careers are on the line. And where this has happened over and over again, and specifically with the Nimitz and the Roosevelt, where they're going to go, well, we didn't know about this, right? And they have chosen not to talk about it.
I'm talking about Washington, D.C. They don't want to address the UFO issue. And then all of a sudden this stuff starts happening. Now they're going to have to ask the questions. This has really been going on and nobody knew about it?
Right. And one of the angles I push is that let's say they're not a threat. Let's say that they find out they're not a threat. Well, the way that these UFO encounters, including the recent American Airlines one over New Mexico, you have lots of close passes. And so I use as the example the 1948 P-51 Mantell, the Mantell case, where you had an experienced pilot that flew in World War II in Korea, and he went up to 20,000 feet without oxygen and then died. Whether he was shot down by a UFO or he just crashed. And so good pilots, if they're not trained for something, they can do dumb things. We all do if we have an unexpected situation. So you've got one of the pilots on the Roosevelt talked about a close pass. There was a wing of two planes and the UFO passed between them. Now, what if one of them had just flicked the controls because he panicked over it, because he had this UFO coming at him at, 3,000 miles an hour? You could have had a midair collision. And so I emphasize that this, if nothing else, this is a safety issue for the military and for civilians too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, American Airlines 2292 certainly presented that. And that was, and I don't think we've heard the end of that. And it's interesting that the FBI is now investigating. I'm going to take a quick break right here. Our guest tonight, we've got a lot more to talk about, and we're going to continue the deep dive. This is Fade to Black, and I do. What is interesting about the show tonight, Jim, is our dear friend between the two of us, Lucinda, invited us out to dinner. The next thing you know, we're doing this show tonight. So I want to give Lucinda all the credit in the world for allowing us to have dinner and drinks the other night. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. More of Jim Lough after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you will love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, attorney Jim Lough. We're going to get back to Jim in just a second. Right now, I want to talk to you about Virtual Shield. Virtual Shield VPN. Virtual Shield is the only VPN I'll ever use for a lot of reasons, but I have a very heavy, technically crazy studio here. Runs on 6 computers every night for the show. Virtual Shield is on all of them. It's the only VPN I'll ever use because they have a strict no-log policy built into their software from the ground up for your privacy protection. Virtual Shield routes your internet through advanced encrypted servers across the globe to prevent your internet service provider from spying on you. And you don't want that. Go to virtualshield.com/fade to black. That's all you got to do. Do that right now. You will get Virtual Shield for 50% off today. You can also click on the link in the video description box below. It is right there. Get Virtual Shield VPN. Do it now. Our guest tonight, Jim Lough, a retired attorney. He's got a new book that is being printed now. I will keep everybody posted on its availability. And we're discussing this in advance of the UAP Task Force report to Congress that is due, allegedly, on June 25th of this year. Now, Jim, I'm going to quote a section of the book here really quick, if you don't mind. And it just stood out. And you write, and I quote, as you say, since 1955, when Senator Richard Russell refused to talk to the press at the request of the military, successive Congresses have followed this silent pattern. It has been 65 years since Senator Russell said it was not the right time to talk about the phenomenon. And things have not changed, have they?
No, they haven't. And that quote is just, I mean, the senators come, their office is in the Russell office building. And so when is the right time?
65 years. And you also state in the book that the official policy of the military and intelligence communities has been that all UFO UAP claims are made by the people who are, 1, mistaken, 2, just outright hoaxing or lying, or 3, delusional, that they're crazy. And this has been the official policy, hasn't it?
Yes, it is, since at least on the civilian side, since 1953 with the Robertson panel.
Now, has the tide turned on that? Or how do we force the issue? Because millions of people, millions of reports, millions of civilians around the world are not delusional, right? They're not mistaken. They're not. Some are hoaxing. That's for sure. Some are hoaxing. There's a lot of stuff on strings out there, and taking pictures. We know that takes place. Okay, sure. But millions of people that, including myself and yourself, are not crazy, are we?
I hope not. I don't think I am, and I've talked to so many people who've experienced things just like me. And so the key is getting them to look at the issue and going through the evidence themselves instead of relying on, because in the book I go through the part I didn't get to send you. Unfortunately, it was with the publisher and I couldn't give you the until I got it myself. But I go through a history of different interactions between Congress members and the military in trying to get the information. And they've been basically stiff-armed for, 70 years now, 75 years. And because I don't start at 1947, I start in 1942, because that's when the Foo Fighter incident started during World War II. And if you look at one of the videos from the Roosevelt, it's a Foo Fighter. It is literally one of the Foo Fighters.
Now, is there are there reasons to keep? Okay, let me back up. I asked you directly last week that one of the things that I found interesting in the verbiage of the bill was that the report was just an informal request now this is my interpretation, okay, that it wasn't law. There was nothing binding. Nobody has to write anything. They could probably ignore it, and there's not going to be any penalty here. That's my interpretation. But also reading the verbiage, it says that there is going to be the public version of the report, but there will also be a classified section of the report. Now, is there strong reason to do that at this point? Should it all be public, or are there reasons to have a classified section here, which is probably going to have the good stuff, and we'll never know?
Well, I think we'll eventually know, but all through the book, I say it doesn't matter whether it's in the classified appendix or in the public version of the report, as long as the senators and the congressmen see it themselves and then call witnesses or follow up on it.
Stop right there. Stop right there. I've got to interrupt. Is there a possibility that classified section of the report is not viewable by the Senate Intelligence Committee?
Well, then it would be they're cleared to get that information. So they should be, everything should be in there. Now, the question is what everything is and how much they give them. I think what's going to happen is they will give them breadcrumbs and that they have to keep following up on it. And so in that classified section, they're not going to come out and say, yeah, they're non-terrestrial and we've been hiding it from you for a long time. And we've killed people, to keep it secret and nanner. That's not going to happen. What they'll do is they'll say, well, we're looking into it. Under a previous administration, X and Y happened. But what my purpose is to give the elected official some ideas on how to ferret that information out.
Well, okay, so is there going to be, in your estimation, is there enough information in the classified section? You just suggested breadcrumbs, and that I believe, right? The frustration is going to set in. But will there be enough in the classified section of this report for Rubio and the other members of the Senate Intelligence Committee to see the panoramic version of what is going on?
I doubt it. I would hope so, but I doubt it. And so I have an entire chapter in the book on the types of tools, administrative tools they can use to ferret out the information. I talk about having an executive action taken to interpret what are sources and methods, which are the things that they always hide behind, and how they can reinterpret that. I suggest.
When you say they, are you talking about the military or intelligence agencies, or both? When you say they,
both.
Okay,
both. And so what I've done is use my government experience to look at existing procedures that they could use. Like they could also put in the next intelligence bill. If they don't get what they want and they get stiff-armed, they put in the next intelligence bill that the inspector general, and each service branch has an inspector general and each intelligence agency does, that the inspector general is allowed to receive complaints on these issues to bring them forward to Congress. Because if Congress doesn't know what's going on, it's probably waste, fraud, and abuse, that the money is not being spent the way the Congress sent it to them. And so I use tricks like whistleblower statutes. Having one idea is to have a whistleblower statute and have a 5-year amnesty program. After the Vietnam War, Gerald Ford had an amnesty program for, and so people could take advantage if they followed certain steps. So if someone's in the deep state that has actually participated in some bad stuff, if they came forward, they would be protected. And so I have some specifics on that, on how to do that. And I'm using the specifics. I'm using existing legislation, so they don't have to do anything different, because every agency has an inspector general that is independent from the rest of the group, and they're allowed to investigate, and they get security clearances to go wherever they want. And so if we stick the inspector general on them, and you have to remember, it's not the force of law, but this is where they come back for their budget. And so, you want that spy plane? Maybe next year. There's a lot of things that can happen, if it doesn't get approved, because you have a really narrow margin. The Democrats all have to stay together. The Republicans have to stay together, plus get one vote. You've got some narrow margins there. So there's not a lot of room for error. And so if they keep stonewalling, it's going to become apparent. And so that's why I say it's an iterative process. The report could contain bupkis, maybe nothing.
Right.
And so that I'm assuming that's a possibility in the way I write what I'm asking them to do.
Is it because the military is so accustomed, so acclimated to keeping secrets? Right? That's what they do. Keep it away from Congress. Keep it away from the Senate. Keep it away from the president. This stuff, and they are used to autonomy when it comes to issues that they just don't want discussed. And certainly the UFO, UAP, ET contact, what they know question comes into play. That right there is on a need-to-know basis. Are we at a turning point now where the military is, and agencies, is now going to have to reveal something that they've been very comfortable with hiding?
Well, what I and they do it within classified, compartmentalized programs that don't speak to each other. And so I address that in a couple ways. One, I talk about, okay, you've got these classified programs that don't talk to each other. That's why 9/11 happened, is because it was an intelligence failure. We didn't know. And so at this point in the report, we don't know if it's, from their position, your audience and us, we know. But from their position, it could be a threat, against us by the Russians or the Chinese, or by an alien force that is bent on conquest. There's enough Hollywood movies for that. And so if that's the case, then they're going to need to be able to hide. They've been hiding that, and they may be hiding it under an executive order that was approved by, Harry Truman at a point when we really didn't know. And so one of the things I do is I say that if you do anything on this, any legislation at all, that you put in language that notwithstanding any other executive order or law previously, that this supersedes, and you can't hide behind that anymore. And so, by hiding this, if it is a threat, then we're talking about leaving our troops who have no idea what this is about. Mm-hmm. When these things happen, except for ship scuttlebutt or around the base, nobody's told. And so, is that what we do with threats? Is we don't tell the military so they can get attacked and not know what to do?
Well, see, this is the thing. And I brought this up. Well, I brought this up many times. I brought it up last night with Stephen Bassett. I think I did. In that I'm wondering if the captain of the Nimitz group, right? And we're talking about submarines and destroyers and missile carriers and frigates and it's a lot of ships. It's not just the Nimitz sitting there by itself. But the captain of that group, did he file a report? Did that get to the president? Were others aware, or was it completely buried and it didn't get out there at all for anybody else to discuss or try to figure out what is going on? I think that oversight needs to go back and look at this specific incident and say, hey, who knew what? Where did it go? Did the president know? Did it make it into the Oval Office? Was he aware of this incident? And if he wasn't, why not?
George W. Bush at the time, and I'll bet he wasn't. Because they, guys in suits get off of helicopters, off the deck of a carrier, go in, and the
pulling hard drives.
Pulling everything, taking it, and the captain of the ship's telling them, no, you don't write a report about this. And so I've talked to at least one person that was on the USS Princeton in the Combat Information Center, and they were told not to do anything.
See, and that's my point, that it takes a hearing where a committee, and in this case, maybe it's the Senate Intelligence Committee, pulls in that captain and says, where's your logs for that day? What is it that you entered? Where's your personal diary? What did you say? What did you do? How was this handled? And I think that's very interesting. There's another point where, and I'm looking at the clock, I want to get this in before we get to the top of the hour, because that's where we're going to talk about you next. So get ready for that, Jim. But is this, I think that the military and the agencies right now are in a race against science. Science is pushing things forward at a very quick pace. Things are being revealed. We are looking for alien life out there in any way that we can find it. And that is going to maybe supersede what the military has been telling us all along. And that is another point that you brought up in the book. And I just thought to myself, that's exactly what is going on here. You can read the headlines, exoplanets and space telescopes and deep space and fast radio bursts and Oumuamua, interstellar objects coming into play, where something's going to break on the science side of things, and the military and the agencies are going to have a lot of questions to answer. And that is what is next, isn't it?
One of my standard paragraphs in the cover letters I'm sending to them. I think the hardest part is drafting 300 cover letters. But in the cover letter, I say that, why am I bringing this up now? You got COVID, you got tons of problems in this country. Why now? And that's what I say is, on October 31st of this year, the Webb telescope's going up. And once that hits, it's gonna see something, and and there's a good possibility it could happen during the 117th Congress. In other words, before January 5th,
2022.
23. Yeah. When they actually are sworn in,
right?
The next Congress. And so, it's just, there's a train coming, and you can either be ahead of the parade or you can be behind it. So two things I sort of tug at them on is which side of this parade do you want to be on? And are you going to be a leader, or are you going to be, no, don't look there, nothing to see here? And the other is, it's the naval people and the Air Force people and the Army people. If it's kept in the secret and something happens, you're letting the troops down. And that's one thing elected officials, to a person, they do care about the individuals. They may not care about this or that or whatever, but they care about their constituents, because every one of them has, armed, constituents. And so sort of tugging on that heartstring, because that's one of the reasons, besides UFOs, is I wouldn't want to have a military jet crash. We've already, in 48, we had it. And so it's a big problem.
Well, the race to finding proof of intelligent life in our galaxy is what everybody is laser focused on now. That's it. We know that the planets exist. It's finding the ones that have life on it. Once that is achieved, and it goes all the way back to our own solar system and what is going on with NASA and Perseverance right now. They find signs of life on Mars. NASA's got all the funding. They've got more money that they can spend forever, and they've always had budget issues. But you get the Holy Grail, and I can feel the announcement coming from NASA here very, very soon because of the money. And all of the astronomers and all of the observatories and all of the massive funding that is going on around the world right now, and the James Webb going up. We have tests up there right now. Hubble's done. But this search, the race is on. The race is on. Somebody needs to find it first. And when you do, the money floods in. And that's the goal. That's the goal, to find intelligent life. Congress is going to be up against it if that happens before everything else occurs, right? That's the race that's on. It's not only with the military, but it's with the private sector as well.
Think back to, I think it was 1996, when Bill Clinton talked about there was a Mars rover, or Mars, I can't remember if they had a rover or not back then, but they found what they thought was life, and then it quickly, no, that wasn't life. That's just little, pebbles inside of pebbles or whatever. Well, now they're back doing the same thing. And I think they're trying to beat the clock. They're trying to be ahead of the curve. And they're going to find that there was ancient life on Mars is sort of a thing to move us to the next level, because then Webb is going to find oh yes, there's life, there's ozone in this, atmosphere, there's this, there's that. The transits, we can see that, that planet has the kinds of chemicals that show that life is there. The next step after that is they're going to see something that's close enough that they're going to see an advanced civilization.
They're going to see city lights. They're going to see city lights. And the same thing is going on right now with Earth. This planet glows. It's not only blue and beautiful, but it's lit up. It's lit up. Man, the dark side of this planet has got city lights glowing all over it. You know how easy that is to spot, right? Yes. And we are going to achieve the same thing with the James Webb Telescope. We will not only be able to find a planet that is correct, but we're going to see its atmosphere, what it's made up of, and we will be able to detect lights. Life on the planet, and that's next. I'm telling you, it's going to happen quick. Now, there's a flip side to all of this. Is Congress, and I'm talking about both houses too. It's not, one is purse strings, one is law. But anyway, is Capitol Hill going to go back to the military and then say, look, we just had these hearings in 2021. You guys weren't really being truthful. We now know this. Somebody's got some explaining to do. Will they go backwards, or will everybody be interested about the future? And will the military get away with it and the agencies?
Well, it depends. You see the Navy pushing forward because they're worried about their troops and or their sailors. Excuse me, wrong description. But look at the Air Force. There's nothing coming out of them on this right now.
Isn't that? So do you find that interesting? As interesting as I do? Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a struggle going on in the bureaucracy over this. Maybe not at the top levels, but below, is everyone's trying to figure out an exit strategy. And I think NASA, in what they're doing with Perseverance, fits into that exit strategy that, gee, we found it. I don't care if they find it and take credit for it or not, but I just want it to happen. And so that's one of the reasons I'm pushing this issue is you get Congress tied up in asking the right questions, because in the past they haven't asked the right questions, and they're intimidated by the military. But these videos have really broken the dam in that regard. And so now we have to actually have information come out of it. I knew I had to do something when the New York Times came out in 2017. It was on my birthday. And so I go, aha, I got to be involved in that. Well, I'll talk about stuff like, I guess you want to talk about me later.
I do, right after the break. And let's take our break right here. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, attorney James Lough, talking about his new book, and I will keep everybody posted on its availability. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with James after this short break. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health matters now. So, log on to getthetea.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's getthetea.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard. Available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Yeah, the secret's out. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I just let everybody know over on YouTube that I've been in the background. That's right. I've been lurking. I've been watching all night. And I just, you just kind of, what? Did I behave tonight? Yeah, that's right. I got my eyes on you guys. Our guest tonight, attorney James Lough. And now, James, I wanted to get everything out in front, with the book and your approach to this and how to deal with All Matters Washington, D.C. and your approach to it. And I think it's the right one. It's something that we've needed for a very long time. And I thank you for that. Fadernauts are behind you. It's an incredible show. And it allows people to maybe take a deep breath. It's like, somebody's on our side. Right, that knows how to deal with this stuff. So I want to thank you on behalf of the community. But now let's talk about you. You reached out to Yvonne Smith, one of the most respected people out there. Period, bar none. And much love to Yvonne and what she has done over the years. But you reached out to her. How did you find her and why?
Well, I spent a lot of time researching who I should talk to. And Yvonne came pretty much at the top of the list on who I wanted to talk to, mainly because she doesn't have an agenda, or her group has a lot of different variations. I attended the group, went to a presentation by Grant Cameron, in fact. And so I sort of looked around. This is in 2013.
Wait. Yeah, I was there. Really? For that. I was there. That was down like in Marina Del Rey.
Culver City.
Yeah, Culver City. Yeah. I was there.
Oh, my goodness.
I was there.
Oh, my goodness.
That's right. I was there. Okay. That was a good. That was a good night, actually. That was Grant was on his game that night. But go ahead. So you show up in Culver City.
Yeah, and like I said, I'd done some research on there were other people that I considered that I would have been probably just as happy with, but I wanted to talk to Yvonne, and the reason was I wanted to talk to somebody. I was still practicing law at the time, and working on some. I was always working on controversial issues. That's what attorneys do. I just wanted to see I sort of had an epiphany in November of 2009 that what the hell am I doing? I work 8 hours a week. I run around, sure I'm putting my kids through school, but there's got to be more. And so I pretty much changed the way I was approaching my practice. And it was more a life change. And so by 2012, I realized, I've got to do something about this. I just can't keep it hidden away. More experiences. And so I just picked Yvonne and hoped it worked out, and it worked out very well. Sarah's a great group.
Okay. Now the question is why?
Well, experiences pretty much my whole life. And so I didn't want to turn off the Congress by, saying how many times I've been on the UFO or whatever, which I don't have no idea, but I wanted to say I've seen them and leave it at that, because that's what I know consciously, is that I've seen them. And so I've had experiences pretty much my whole life, off and on. And I feel I'm still occasionally having them, but not quite as often.
Okay, so let's turn back the clocks a little bit. Where were you raised?
I was raised originally in St. Louis, Missouri, and North St. Louis, Missouri, and lived until I was about 7-8 years old. And then we moved first to Indiana and then to the Los Angeles area. And I'd go back every summer to live in Missouri. I guess so they wouldn't Californiaize me too much. Well, that failed. But so I've been living, I grew up in San Dimas once I moved out here in the grade.
And San Dimas, for everybody, I love hearing the name San Dimas. It's the northern part of L.A. County at the foothills of the mountains that are out here, San Gabriel Mountains. And there is a run of cities. I consider, well, you were raised there back in the day when San Dimas was out in the country, right? But today, there's a run of cities that goes up the 210, which kind of starts, you could almost say starts at Burbank now, because everything touches, right? So it's Burbank, it's Glendale, it's Pasadena, it's Sierra Madre, Arcadia, Monrovia, San Dimas, right? And so now it's just one, it's like one city to me, right? So when you say San Dimas, I'm in Burbank, but I would say that it's the same city today, right? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. When you fly to LAX, people who haven't come to Los Angeles are amazed that, we spent 25 minutes in the air flying over the city because it's just one big city.
They think that that's all Los Angeles. And they don't realize that they're actually flying over Palm Springs, right? It's really, really funny. So we have all these cities, and they're all over the place. But at one point, back in the day, certainly in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, there was still farmland and things that were separating these cities. Today, it's just one big mess. And San Dimas is part of that, where now San Dimas used to be remote, but it is now just part of Los Angeles.
Right. I went to Bonita High School in Verne, and then San Dimas High School was built after that. In fact, I ran the election where they picked their mascot, and when the school first started, and they exchanged a chrome-plated smudge pot for the winner of the football game. Do you remember smudge pots?
I do. And, you know, when I think of San Dimas, well, there's a guitar builder out there that I know really well, but I think of the racetrack and the Budweiser plant. That's when I think of San Dimas.
No, that's actually Azusa or Industry. It's a little further.
Yeah,
but I know what you mean. Yeah,
they all touch. Yeah, they all touch. Well, you're talking about it, Jim. You're talking about 1 mile. Okay.
Right. You're right. You're right.
If you're driving on the freeway, you blow through 4 cities in 45 seconds.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So did you have experiences in San Dimas back then?
Yes, I did.
Did they start in St. Louis or did they start in San Dimas?
They started in St. Louis, but I didn't know it.
Right.
You know, I was too young. And my mother lives with us. And about 5 years ago, she said, "Did I ever tell you about the time when I found you on the refrigerator?" What do you mean?
She found you on the what? You broke up there.
On top of the refrigerator.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
And so I was 9 months old. I'd been in the hospital. I had come home. I couldn't crawl very well. And so my mother had me in the kitchen floor, you know, crawling around, you know, and I couldn't crawl very far. And she had to go to the bathroom. So she went in, 750 square foot house. It was 3 feet away was the restroom.
Right.
And so she quickly went to the bathroom, washed her hands, came back in, and I was on top of the refrigerator.
Now, how does she explain that?
She doesn't.
Right.
She thought it was, you know, an angel or something like that was protecting me and put me up there or something. But looking back, it was, they probably put me back wrong. Whenever they, you know,
I've got a lot of,
just freaked her out.
I've got a lot of stories, but I never levitated to the top of the refrigerator. Yeah, that's strong. What happened in San Dimas? What was the first UFO contact experience that you can remember?
I was a junior in high school, and I was playing basketball with some friends in the backyard of a friend, and we played for about 2 hours. And so after the game, I was walking home, and I decided to go lay in the park, and just while I'm, you know, let the sweat dry off before I went home. Well, the funny thing about it was the park was just being planted, and so it was peat moss and you know, just shoots of grass. Yet I laid down and looking at the stars, and it was deathly quiet. It just got, you know, just all sound just disappeared. And so I'm looking out at the stars, very clear night, and I see this lenticular shaped object off in the distance towards Pudding Stone Dam.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a airport near there called Brackett Field.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking, you know, now it wasn't lit, it was dark. And so I could see it against the starlit night. I could see this lenticular shaped object moving along towards Los Angeles to the west. And I'm looking at it and going, wow, that's a weird time. Brackett Field's closed. What's that? And then I thought, it's not making any noise. And it keeps going towards LA. And then I thought to myself, no, that's a UFO. And, you know, in my mind, thinking that. When I started saying you, and before I said, it made a 130-degree turn, just straight edge turn, and started coming towards me, descending and just in a straight line towards me. And as this thing's coming close, it just keeps getting closer and closer, and I can see it plain as day, even though it was dark. Just, you know, matte black.
So
It
when
was
you
darker
say,
than the sky.
yeah, and when you say lenticular, so this is a saucer.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
This is the classic Billy Meyer kind of saucer, you know.
Right.
Whether that's accurate or not. But so it's coming down towards me. And so I stand up so I get a better view of it. And lost it for a second, refound it. And I'm thinking, it's going to come right over me. So I reached down without looking and found a rock that fit right in my hand, just perfectly, like a skipping rock. And I threw it. As soon as it came over me, it was about, if it was 75 feet above me, it was at least 30 feet wide in diameter. And I threw a rock at it. And this rock came down and almost hit me in the head because I threw it straight up. It didn't hit it, came straight down. And then my memory at the time is it flew directly behind, in a straight line, but started going up and then passed over the San Gabriel Mountains over a water tower. And so I go, wow, this is amazing. And now my dad read UFO books at the time. And, but I was a teenager and, my dad and I didn't talk very much, during that year and a half when I thought I was smarter than he was.
Sure.
And so I went home and didn't tell him about it, went straight to bed and, took a shower and went straight to bed and never thought about it for a long time. Whenever I was seeing Yvonne, I had myself regressed to that time, and I never picked up anything. I've got a lot of blocks, and I didn't get anything. So after the regression, before driving back to San Diego County where I live, I drove by the old neighborhood and went and walked and stood at that exact spot on the way home from my regression session. And I'm just standing there looking at I remembered everything very well, the scenery, the stuff, even the fact that the crickets stopped. And then I reached down, look around, and there's a rock sitting there. It's got a few dents on it or whatever, but it was literally, it fit in my hand the same way as the one I had. And so I get up, after I pick it up, I stand up and look around, and I realize I have a clear memory of it just going in a straight line, just descending and then going back up again and speeding up. I look around, and to my right is the water tower. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. That's not how I remember it. Then what I did is I stood facing where I saw it. And then I turned around and faced where the water tower was, not where I thought it went. And all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute. 1 millisecond I'm facing one way, the next millisecond I'm facing another way. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks when I realized that. And so in addition to seeing it, I was probably taken at that point. And, they can freeze time locally.
Sure.
And so that was the first incident that I remember. As a kid, I used to walk in my sleep a lot. They'd find me out in the street, on the sidewalk or whatever. And so, I don't know if that was just, growing up, and going through puberty or what. But, I had a lot of incidents where they just couldn't find me. And so I never really traced that back. I haven't done a lot of regressions with Vaughn because I don't pick up that much, but my conscious memory is enough from what I saw. And before and after in the regression, while I'm conscious, my memories are so sharp where I, smell the grass, brush the peat moss off my sweaty back. Who goes and lays in peat moss after playing 2 hours of basketball?
Nobody.
So it took me 50 years pretty much to put 2 and 2 together on it.
the question of regression, and I think you were there when Yvonne and I were talking about whether I would do it or not. And I've always chosen no, right? Let's just leave. I have good memories, right? Let's just leave it where it is. And I am okay with that. But that's a pretty big step, right? To go and to choose, because you may find out something that maybe you didn't want to know. Did that happen to you?
Yeah, it did actually. I pretty much when I spend most of my time with Yvonne do, I'll pay her just to sit and I'll tell her what's happened to me that I consciously remember. And then she's an expert. I mean, she's the expert.
Right.
And, oh yeah, that's common. No, I've never heard of that before. And so I come out of those meetings we have feeling very good because it helps nail it down. I don't look at regressions as proving that something happened. All it does is prove to me something happened. That's all I care about.
Right. And help me understand. I'm looking at the clock. We only have a few minutes left. I almost want to. You want to keep this going? We can do an extra segment.
Sure.
Okay. You're retired. You don't play golf. You don't have tea time in the morning, right?
But this is my bedtime. Come on.
You just brought up. I think with all of this, our memories are sepia tone, little fuzzy, right? But you just said these memories are vivid, right?
Yes.
What's that like to experience a memory that was fuzzy and black and white before, now coming back in living color?
It's just amazing. One time, Yvonne regressed me. There was an incident that happened after a city council meeting. And I didn't get much. I did get something out of it, that something happened. But what I was amazed is I remember myself sitting in the audience at a city council meeting, which I never do because if I'm the city attorney, I sit up at the podium.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in the audience, and they had just cleaned and waxed the linoleum floor in the council chambers. This is a small town. And I remember sitting in the chair and looking down, and there was an accumulation of dirt on the seat, where it attaches to the floor, and it smelled, and it was mixed with the smell of pine sol and wax. And I could remember. Now, I don't remember details like that, And then when I went out to my car and opened and shut the door, I realized how much I had body odor because I'd worked from 7 o'clock in the morning till 11:30 at night. And so little things like that, I go, whoa, I'm even grossing myself out, And so when I took my jacket off, and so hundreds of little details pop out that, help me. I guess, people can say that people fabricate, but the reason I did it was for myself. I didn't do it to write a book about myself or to talk about it. I'm a public policy person. I read The Economist. I read Foreign Affairs magazine. I don't, I'm not in this to make a killing with my story,
Have you had the Whitley Strieber version of things? Have you made contact?
Yeah. Not quite like Whitley, but I don't know what I'm contacting with, but occasionally I will get, a sign I'm on the right track. Something will pop up. I'll be thinking, should I get on this path or should I go? I think I should do this. And then I look up, I haven't looked at the clock in 3 hours and it's 1:11.
I want to just let the audience know. I'm looking at Jim, who is every bit of what an attorney should look like. You're in this beautiful office with the awards and the things, and you look like an attorney. You speak like an attorney, right? And to hear you recount these and share these with me, it's like, I've got F. Lee Bailey, sitting in front of me, talking about a life of contact. I find that just extraordinary. How many professionals out there like yourself have had the same experiences but have never spoken about it? Dave, have you thought about that?
It's amazing. I've run across people that I've looked at them and just know that they're one of us. That whether they say it or not, I've just had these things hit me, these impressions, and one of the things I try to do at experiencer sessions at conferences or whatever is, if there are professionals in the room, and I'll talk more about my experiences so they feel a little, because like the first time I went to a conference, I'm sitting in the back hoping no one recognizes me, because I've had my 15 minutes. I'm the guy on TV when we lose the case. When we win it, the mayor's on TV, And so I one time had a person stare at me. I was taking a train from Fresno to San Francisco or Sacramento. I can't remember which, but this woman stared at me the whole time. And so when we got into the station, she walked up to me and goes, "Did you work at PG&E?" And I go, "No." And so she walked on. She saw me from cable access TV, for the council meetings, And so, you live your life in public. And so you try not to talk about these things too much. And so I know that other professionals have the same problem. And I know a few through Yvonne's group. And I mostly like, one of my favorite things is to talk to the 40-somethings, 30-somethings that are, moving up, as an architect, an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, that kind of thing. There are a lot of, they don't pick people based on who they are. The janitor and the attorney are the same to them.
Right.
There's no difference.
I find that part absolutely extraordinary. Jim, stay right there. We're going to do some overtime, and we will do that when we come back. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest is attorney James Lough. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'm going to take a quick break. Overtime is next. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, my name is Billy Carson, and I am a best-selling author and the founder of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Together with my team, we have built an all-new conscious streaming TV platform designed with every family member in mind. If you have ever wanted to travel the world and attend lectures and workshops from your favorite speakers but weren't able to, look no further. ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. There are dozens of workshops and lectures from speakers you know and love. We have also included amazing categories to assure that your consciousness is entertained and elevating on a daily basis. Amazing interviews, ancient history, ascension knowledge, wisdom teachings, documentaries, conspiracies, mysteries, health and fitness, conscious cooking, meditations, finance, yoga, and so much more. To start your free trial on any mobile device or computer, surf to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's Forbidden Knowledge with the number 4, ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Again, visit ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JamieChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, attorney James Lough. We're heading into overtime, and you know what I like to do is, we get to this part of the show with the guests instead of taking live phone calls. I just like to get a little bit loose and try to have some fun here. And Jim, I actually want to go here. Have you seen the TV show People of Earth?
Yes.
Okay. Did you laugh?
I loved it.
Is it you?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I'm sure you were there when I asked Yvonne last week. I said I want to come. I want to come to one of your groups and one of your meetings. And she matter-of-factly, and Yvonne and I are friends, right? She looked right at me. She said, I don't know, Jimmy. Are you an experiencer? And it reminded me of People of Earth right there, that this is a serious subject, and the members of that group are there for their own reasons, but this isn't just some public, la-di-da thing. This is a very serious group that gets together and opens up about their experiences, much like People of Earth. And I thought to myself, People of Earth, this is why I'm saying this as directly as I can. It seems that the writers of People of Earth may have infiltrated Yvonne's group. Right? Am I wrong here?
Yeah. It's funny about that show is a lot of people think it's hilarious and a lot of people are offended by it, but I just thought it was hilarious.
It was too spot on the money, right?
That's what makes things funny. Yeah.
Yes. It was just too close to the mark. And it was not only, and I want to ask you about this. Now, I know that we can't disclose, what goes on at the groups. That's private, and I'll respect all of that. But there are moments there where the terminology is corrected in the show. No, that's not what we say. We are this, or and this interaction that goes on in the group on the show. That probably happens just like that, doesn't it? At one of Yvonne's group meetings,
without the comedic, there's a lot of laughing and stuff. But if someone's talking about something that's very serious to them,
right,
people get very serious. But any good comedy is very close to the truth.
Yeah, that's right. And so the first time that you were going to be there with Yvonne's group, what is going through you physically driving up? Are you anxious? Are you excited? Are you nervous? You don't know what to expect? What were you going through?
I was physically shaking.
Right.
I was more nervous. In fact, talking about this stuff, I sort of compare it to different levels of nerves. Like even tonight's show for me, my wife keeps telling me, "You're too nervous. Calm down, calm down." And, I'm the guy that stood up in front of the appellate court to do this or that, And
you had no issues with that.
No.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff I did near the end of my practice, last 10 or 12 years, is I would be called in because there was a problem. Now, I may not have been an expert in the field, but I tend to be the calmest person in the room. And I've handled several high-profile personnel matters for governments. And I come in and then tell the board that, yeah, I'll do this, but you have to let me hire a personnel expert to be with me. And so they would still, in fact, you could just use them and you don't need me. No. And so I'm used to being calm in stressful situations. Yet the most stress I feel is talking about myself or this subject.
And somebody that is so used to being able to get to calm and in control, now you're going to your first experiencer group and you've got anxiety. Did you ever get over it?
Yes. The nice thing about Yvonne's group is there are veterans in the group that have been with her for 25 years. They don't show up at every meeting because it's been 25 years, but there's always someone there that's been there a while, and they're sort of a calming influence. One of my favorites of all time, Shirley MacLaine, just passed away. And it wasn't for her at my first meeting, I don't think I would have come back.
Did you speak at the first meeting? Yeah,
I did. But I mostly listened.
Right.
Because as I heard earlier in the show, listening is how you learn.
Now, okay, if I'm getting into code of conduct, you can just stop me.
Sure.
But what do you do? Hi, my name's Jim, and I'm an experiencer.
No, it's a little less formal than that.
Okay.
And but people can talk or they don't have to talk. That's the one nice thing about Yvonne. She's very good at disarming people, where it takes their nerve level down, and so
she can get me to say anything. Yeah. She has that ability to let you know that she's honest, which she is, right, and that everything is okay. And yeah, I could definitely see her getting everybody centered.
And when she regressed me, people talk about planting false memories and all that. I could have used her in what we call discovery depositions, where we just want to know what happened. She would have been a perfect attorney doing that kind of stuff because she's got a very calm demeanor. Even an opposing hostile witness will eventually melt.
Yes.
Listen, and so, it's the perfect group. She's not Southern California has several people that are good, but Yvonne's just the one that I happen to see and it's been really good. And you have to remember that even those people that have been there 25 years had their first meeting too.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
Yeah, so it's not quite. It's not while there's joking, it's not quite as comedic as People of Earth, but it's a very welcoming environment. And
take me through the first time where you opened up, right? The stuff that you just never discussed with anybody, and then you just let it go. Take me through that day.
Well, getting there, being very nervous to even be there, because I could walk in a room and there could be someone who happens to go to a city council meeting that would recognize me. And so every place I go with this, because I went to a MUFON conference in 2012 and sat in the back room and pretty much hid myself. And because I didn't want to run into somebody. And so sitting there and listening to people talk back and forth, it took me a while to relax enough to talk myself. And then people, would say, well, that's interesting. I've had something similar, but it's a little different. And then someone else say, yeah, that's what happens. And one thing I said that really caught me is I was talking about, I looked over at the clock and it was 1:11 in the morning. And everyone just busted out laughing.
Yeah, no surprise to me. You're right.
And it was to me. I'm thinking, are they laughing at me? And then they start joking. Well, mine's 3:33. Mine's this. Mine's that. Mine's 2:22. Mine's 12:34. And so that's when my blood pressure dropped about 20 points. That I knew I was.
And afterwards, did you feel a sense of relief?
Yes. I felt like a limp dish rag driving home.
Sure. I can only imagine. Going back to the recognition thing, I just have to tell the audience this. I think I said to Jim 3 times after we met, dude, I know you. Right? How many? I said that like 3 times. We've met. Now quit messing with me. And you said no. I said, no. But yeah, you must get that a lot because I tried to get that out of you, but you insisted that we had never met before. I'm still not convinced.
I don't recall. I've been at conferences where you're there, but there's always 20 or 30 people around your table. And so I just walk over to Yvonne's table and I would sit at Yvonne's table while she's doing regressions, telling people, no, I can sell the book, but I can't sign it for Yvonne. Oh, I'll come back later.
Right.
That's basically what I would do for 3 hours.
And now you've been with Yvonne since 2014?
Yes. 2013, 2014, right in there. Right after that Grant Cameron.
Right. And you live down in San Diego. Yvonne's up here near us. Right. That's a long commute. Do you do this every month? No, I used to. And in fact, I don't, as I get older, I don't drive as much. I try to stay closer to home. And so I don't go that often. In fact, I haven't gone obviously I haven't gone in a while. But it's nice to pop in see, there's a group, probably Yvonne's got 500 or 1,000 people that claim they're members of CERO. Mm-hmm. But at your average meeting, it's anywhere from 10 to 30 that show up. Now, when you are listening to other experiencers, are there little details that maybe even Yvonne doesn't know, right? Things that you've never shared that you hear in the meeting where you go, oh, holy crap. Yep. I thought that was only me.
I've had several holy crap moments.
Yes. Can I get one holy crap moment?
Oh, boy. I'll think of it now, but it's after my bedtime. I can't really remember, but there are times where something has happened to them. Well, the first one was the timing, the 111
The
versus
clocks, yes.
Yeah. And so that kind of thing hit me, and that's what made me relax. That's probably the one that stands out most in my mind.
Do you feel that in a group setting, and I bring this up because it is a little detail that kind of followed through People of Earth, little subplot, but some people just may be looking for attention. Maybe they've made up this entire thing. And it's funny how other experiencers are laser focused on somebody's experience because they don't want to be BS'd, right? You don't want to be taken on a ride. And then there's a detail that pops up, right? And have you gone through that where, oh, okay, no, they have gone through this experience?
Yvonne does a pretty good job of vetting people.
Yes.
And so by the time they get to our support group, they're pretty well vetted that they've had some sort of experience. And so I really can't remember a time where somebody is, just making it up.
Infiltrated.
Yeah. And you could tell, because there are a lot of little things, like the time thing I said, but there are a lot of little things that people notice. And you're talking about no matter who's there, it's a very discerning group.
On all the details.
And it's not just that. It's, I don't feel I am, but the more people have had contact, because when you go on these ships, you're going to another reality. And you come back, and some people have, different side effects, minor electrical disturbances. Other people, they're not going to remember, they're not going to know who's going to win the next Kentucky Derby, but they'll have psychic impressions about people. And there's a couple of members of the group that will say, I don't get a very good vibe out of that person. And when they do, it's invariably someone who is either, whether they've had experiences or not, are in it for themselves. And so, you don't, Yvonne doesn't boot people out, but you can usually take some people with a grain of salt. Because there's some people, like we have debates sometimes with a friend of mine about, what's the guy out of Vista in the 50s, the contactee? I can't think of his name now.
The photographer. Not George Van Tassel, the other contactee.
No, the other guy.
Yeah.
Well, I wrote about him in my book, and I can't remember, so it's past my bedtime.
He was at Palomar Observatory.
Yes, exactly. Well, he probably had an experience, but just, in my opinion, he kept embellishing. And so, people do that, sometimes. And so there are some people like that. But you when you're in a group for years with someone, you sort of pick up on it. Like, whenever someone, okay, I saw 2 orbs in my room and they were floating around and it was amazing. And then they raised their hand, I saw 6, that kind of thing. And so there are, you can use, and then you see looks around the room, that person is an experiencer, but they have a personality that might embellish a little bit. And
now you just said, and you mentioned it, I let it go earlier because we were deep in conversation, but you just said when we go on the ships, when something like that is said, immediately the audience wants to know the details, and sometimes the host will go and get into this. But when you say something like that, is this something that you consciously experienced and went through this just like you and I are talking right now? Or was this something that was pulled out of regression?
I have one thing that was pulled out of regression.
George Adamski.
Yes.
It just came to me right then. George Adamski.
Thank you, because I would have woken up at 2 a.m. and said, George Adamski, and my wife would jump.
That was the universe just plugging into me at this moment to make sure that we got that out. Okay, George Adamski. Okay, so back to being on a ship. Speaking of George Adamski, there you go. All right.
There were no beautiful Venusian women but Yvonne was able to help me get to one memory that was pretty consistent. I had conscious memories up until, being taken. And then I have conscious memories of the second they put me down, because I was standing on my front walkway to my house. It was 40 degrees. I was in my boxer shorts and t-shirt. And since I was in my boxer shorts and t-shirt, there was a brilliant light shining on me from maybe 10 feet above. And that light, I looked around at the houses around. We lived on a corner, a bend in the street where we had frontage on two sides.
Right.
I looked around, and none of the houses around were all dark. Yet I was in light brighter than noonday sun. And I just came alert, and I said out loud to myself, so that's what they look like. And I'm 40 some years old at that time. And so I say that, and then do I look up? No. I just walk into the house. I realize I've got to remember all this. And I could feel the wind was blowing from the north. I could feel the hairs of my leg moving. I could feel my feet stepping on the concrete sidewalk. I looked over, and there were two chairs on the front porch that are normally in the backyard most of the time. And then I went to the door and grabbed the handle, and then I thought, God, I hope this thing's open. Walk in the house. My crazy Dalmatian doesn't start barking like a lunatic like she always does. Go into the bedroom and go to bed without even looking up. I had an experience about 5 years ago.
Oh, whoa. I'm not letting this go. No. Okay. You said to yourself, that's what they look like, and you've got to remember everything.
Yep.
Right? Okay, you wake up in the morning. What did you remember?
I didn't remember anything. Well, I remembered it, but when I woke up in the morning, it wasn't dizzy like spinning around. What was happening is the whole world was moving from left to right, and then it would start again. I must have thrown up 200 times that morning. And it was interesting because I had scheduled myself. This was very unusual. I had scheduled myself out of work. I was a solo practitioner at the time. I had scheduled myself out of work for 2 weeks. I was going to go to the League of California Cities annual conference. And then I was going to do something I never did when I was down in LA. I was going to go to the state bar conference too. And so I booked conferences back to back, since they weren't going to need me at City Hall for a couple of weeks because there was an election coming up. And so I was off. So my calendar had this big hole in it. And I am totally sick. My wife gets me into my doctor. He says that I've either caught a virus or I've had a blow to the head. And I couldn't drive for 2 weeks. After that, after about 2 weeks, when I could see again, I looked in the mirror, and I had 2 scars. I don't know if you can see them, but right above my left eye.
I see them. Yes.
Going to my scalp. Well, scars, or wrinkles or whatever, they form gradually. This just bam, just disappeared right away. And I had a picture that my wife, about a year later, had blown up. And it was taken a year before this. And she blew it up for my 50th birthday and put them all on popsicle sticks. So when I walked in the restaurant, everyone was wearing Jim Lough faces, which scared the crap out of me. And I looked at it, and there wasn't anything there. It was just, just regular skin, no scar, no nothing. And so this showed up later. Yvonne regressed me back, and I was able to see. My body just went frozen, and I couldn't even move my arm while I'm laying on the couch. Then I could see, my eyes were almost shut, but I could see a little bit through the slits, and because the light was so bright outside of my head where I was laying there frozen. And I could see the top half of a large-eyed, typical wraparound gray alien. And so I could see it. And then I saw this like boomerang-shaped object go like this in front of me, and I just saw the shadow of it go. And then I went numb in that area. And then about a minute later, I saw the same boomerang-shaped object go the opposite direction. And then I gradually lost the numbness, being paralyzed. And that was the last I remember. Yvonne had me draw a picture of the alien. And so I drew it, and it just didn't look right. But I had to guess what the chin looked like in the bottom half. And I drew it and gave it to her and kept a copy for myself. I'm a terrible artist, but it just didn't fit. So I go home and that night, and I'm reading. I just finished a book, and I'm always reading 2 or 3 books, and I didn't have another one, a new book. So I tend to go to my bookshelf and look for a book that has a bookmark in it, because that's a book I picked up, read, and then for some reason put it down. And so I always leave bookmarks in my book. So I picked up this book and read a page. It was the end of the chapter, and I shut it up and figured I'll start it the next morning. So the next morning at breakfast, I pick it up. It's Whitley Strieber's Communion Letters. And I look at the receipt for it, and it's 1997, a year before this happened. I read the next chapter. It's a story about a guy who wrote to Whitley, who said he was taken by Greys, put on a table. They made it where he couldn't move. They used this boomerang type object, and they spun it one direction 3 times, and it cut open his head at that point. They put something in it, and then they closed it again. And I'm reading that, and I'm going, well, I won't say what I said. You may have children listening to this, but it was exactly what happened to me. It was the exact same thing. And this is a book I bought in 1997, stopped reading at that point, and then pick it up in 2015 or 16 or whatever that was. And so little things like that tell me that, they give me as much credibility for myself, maybe not for others.
That's all that matters.
Frankly,
right.
I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. I care about myself knowing,
James, what a great conversation tonight. I knew the show was going to be this great, but thank you. And the new book is called the UFO Briefing Book, A Guide to Congressional Oversight of the UAP Phenomenon. And as soon as the book is released and available, I will let everybody know. Jim, thank you so much. Give my best to Yvonne and your wife, and thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Great conversation.
Really enjoyed it.
It was a great conversation, Jim. Thank you so much. And where can everybody reach out to you?
Well, I actually have a website.
And it is?
It is jplufo.com.
jplufo.com. Thank you so much, Jim. I'll put that up on Twitter right now. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camurian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmasters, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intros, Space Boys, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. I'll see everybody tomorrow night for Fader Night, open lines all night long. Until then, everybody be safe. It's time to Fade to Black.